In my quest to watch a film every day in 2025, I thought it might be fun to once a week take a look back at an older film that I had never seen before on a big anniversary. Well, there is an underappreciated Michael Douglas and early Tobey Maguire film that came out 25 years ago. So let's take a deep dive into Wonder Boys. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to my movie review for Wonder Boys. This reached its 25th anniversary just a few weeks ago, and actually this is sort of a double anniversary for this movie because they released it twice. It was released so early in the year, in late February, when Oscar nominations for the previous year were just sort of coming out, that they thought, well, it didn't really do what we wanted it to at the box office. Let's re-release this again in November, so it's fresher in the minds of the voters. And this actually did get 3 Oscar nominations. So we'll talk about all of this. We'll take a little bit of a dive into the background of this movie, and then I will give you my review on it. So that is all coming up. But first, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a subscriber already for Dan Reviews It, thank you so much for that. Love when you guys return and check out my stuff. But if you're not, please consider subscribing and click that notification bell too. On this channel, I typically do new movie releases and new TV shows, or at least recent. But like I said, I've been trying to watch a movie every day in 2025. So far, I've maintained that. But once a week, I've taken a look at an older film on a big anniversary that I'd never seen before. And so far, we've done $1 Million Baby and Shampoo and Blood Simple, the first Coen Brothers movie. So there's some fun ones up there. But I have to say, I don't know if this is necessarily my favorite, but of all the ones I've watched so far, if I were to rewatch one of them, this would be it. This is a very solid movie. We'll talk about this here in a moment. But first, we'll talk a little bit about the background. That's kind of what I've been doing with these anniversary movies, is doing kind of a deep dive into everything. So I did mention the Oscar nomination, so I guess we can start there. No real major nominations except for Best Adapted Screenplay, which Steve Kloves was nominated for. Best Film Editing was nominated as well for Dede Allen, and then Best Original Song actually won for Bob Dylan. This is an Oscar-winning movie thanks to the Bob Dylan song "Things Have Changed," and along the awards circuit that season, this did win a few other things. It won the Golden Globe for Best Original Song. It won Frances McDormand a Supporting Actress Award for the Boston Society of Film Critics. Best Screenplay as well won at that awards. Los Angeles Film Critics decided Michael Douglas was the Best Actor of the Year, and Frances McDormand for Best Supporting Actress for 2 films that year, this and Almost Famous. Can't disagree with that. But all right, so this is based on a novel by Michael Chabon. And I looked up his other works. This is really the most famous one, I guess. I didn't know a lot about his other stuff, looking into it. But the director of this, Curtis Hanson, was hot off of L.A. Confidential, which was a big Oscar movie. I don't know if it won anything, but it was certainly nominated for a bunch of things. And I think he may have been nominated for Best Director for L.A. Confidential. But he had been, working in the biz for a long time, and that was his highest profile movie yet. So he was sort of looking for his next film. He was working on a screenplay of his own that I guess never really panned out. But he was advised by an actress friend of his, Elizabeth McGovern, to work with screenwriter Steve Kloves, and the two of them, were kind of attracted to this movie, The Wonder Boys, because it was reflecting a lot of what Hanson was going through with his own screenplay, which, when we get into the plot a little bit more, you'll see sort of how that dovetails with what he was going through. And so Kloves at that point was best known for writing and directing the fabulous Baker Boys, and after that sort of got out of the business for quite a while, but returned for this one, and was going to direct the film at first, but then they decided it would be better for Hanson. And Kloves had never adapted a novel before this, but decided to tackle this one head on. And they changed a few things that felt more honest to Michael Douglas's character, and Michael Douglas as a person, and what Curtis Hanson maybe saw in himself in the character. So there were a few small liberties taken with the screenplay. So nobody really wanted to pick this up until Michael Douglas came aboard. At that point, he had a really, high profile. He obviously, at that point, had won his Oscar for Wall Street about 10 years earlier. And so, still a big name, still could hold water. And once he came aboard, Paramount was like, okay, now we can see this movie being made, perhaps, especially because he worked well below his usual fee. I'm sure that was attractive to him as well. But he loved the role so much that he took it. Not probably for scale, but for certainly less than his usual fee. And he ended up gaining 25 pounds for the role as well. He is not lean and mean, as we've seen in some of his other work. But one of the challenges that Hansen and Cloves dealt with is taking a plot that is kind of aimless, kind of all over the place, and sort of trying to make it cohesive and, getting the audience to feel interested. So one of the other people on board early was Robert Downey Jr. Now, this was the drug-addled era of Robert Downey Jr. It was before his big comeback on Ally McBeal. That actually came in the fall of 2000. He had done a couple small roles in bigger movies. He was a part of Bowfinger, the Steve Martin comedy with Eddie Murphy. He had a small role there, but for the most part, he was doing a lot of direct-to-DVD movies. He was hard to insure, and Hansen was apprehensive, but he met with him and he convinced him that, okay, I can definitely do this. I'm going to focus on this. And for the 4.5-month shoot, he was completely, sober and professional and all of that. And then as soon as the shoot wrapped, he went back to LA and violated his probation. So Robert Downey Jr., if he has a project, at that point in his life, he will focus on it. But as soon as that is dropped, he is off the wagon again, sadly. But of course, we know now that he's really turned things around and, as part of the Marvel Universe and his Oscar for Oppenheimer. So we don't need to talk about that anymore. But in any event, they had discussed filming in either Toronto or New York City, but Hansen was resolute that no, we need to film this in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is almost a character here. And it was a mild winter, which they did not expect. So they actually had to add some snow and the like to give it the real Pennsylvania. I mean, I'm from Pennsylvania my whole life. Our winters do typically get pretty brutal. But I guess that was a rather mild one, unfortunately, for the filming. But what else can I tell you? Bob Dylan came aboard as he had read the script, and Curtis Hanson really is a huge fan and said, hey, can you come up with something for this? And look, I'm not a huge Bob Dylan fan, but that is a great song. Times have changed. And this is also one of the early films for Tobey Maguire. He'd done Pleasantville before that. I think maybe Cider House Rules. That certainly was around that time. But it was one of his first films as well. And Rob McElhenney, who later would be in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, has a role here as well. But it was cut from the final film, so we don't actually get to see it, unfortunately. All right, what else can I tell you? I guess that's really about it. There was one sort of problem with the movie. So there's a list of celebrities in the movie that had committed suicide, and Alan Ladd was one of them, who I was unfamiliar with. I had to look him up. He was like a star in the 30s and 40s, and I guess maybe he did a bunch of westerns or what have you, but there were complaints after the movie's initial release from the Ladd estate, Ladd's family, whatever. And so upon its re-release and on all of the VHS and DVD and Blu-ray copies and streaming, they excised that mention, but as a result, there is a disclaimer now at the beginning of the movie that says that the feature had been edited for content. It's pretty wild, because of course when you see something on TV, you expect, okay, it's edited for either content or to fit in the allotted time slot or whatever. But to just take out a name, so you're not getting the original movie because of that 1 second of mention of Alan Ladd, which I thought was pretty interesting. But all right, so that's enough of the background. Let's get to the movie itself. So we have this English professor played by Michael Douglas, and he is really sort of reeling from a few different things in his life. His wife has just left him, and he's also struggling with writer's block. He's been working on this novel for 7 years for his publisher, and He's just having a devil of a time, and that's sort of, I think, where Curtis Hanson kind of saw himself a bit in this character. But in the meantime, he's also got a bunch of stuff going on with these college kids that he's, he's kind of mentoring the Tobey Maguire character, and there's also a college gal that lives with him that has a huge crush on him, and he's also gotten the Chancellor pregnant. So he's got a lot going on in his life. So I've mentioned a few of the people already: Michael Douglas, Tobey Maguire, Frances McDormand plays the Chancellor. Katie Holmes, though, plays the boarder at his house that has a thing for him. You've got Robert Downey Jr. I mentioned he works, with the publishing company. Rip Torn, Richard Thomas, Jane Addams, Alan Tudyk, Kelly Bishop, all a part of this production as well. And look, I can see why this did not really light up the screen. I mean, this came out when I had just graduated college, so you would think, college-based movie. He's a writer. I was very strong. My degree is in communications, but I was very strong in English and writing classes, and so it seems like this is the type of movie that would appeal to me. But for whatever reason, it just didn't. And I think there's been some discussion about the marketing of the movie, how they sort of made Michael Douglas kind of look like he was trying to do a Robin Williams type of bit, like a Dead Poets Society kind of thing. The poster is not great for this movie. They've changed it a couple of times. I think the DVD poster is different from what they had in the theater, but you can see some of those older posters online. And I can see why this didn't really have people flocking to the theater. So then, again, Paramount was like, well, we do want to do an Oscar push for this movie. It's been winning, some great accolades from some of the local awards, and I mentioned some of those. So they re-released it in November, and it kind of fizzled out again. So it was actually a bit of a surprise that it got those few nominations at the time. But look, Michael Douglas, I think this might be his best role. Obviously, he won his Oscar for Wall Street, and I haven't seen a ton of his older movies. I never saw like the sort of those romantic action comedies he did, like Romancing the Stone and The War of the Roses. I never saw those, but I did see Falling Down. He was very good in that. But this is such a more nuanced role than either Gordon Gekko or the dude from Falling Down, that I really think this might be his finest performance. So there is a lot going on here, and I can see how it might have been difficult for Cloves as the writer and Hanson as the director to kind of make this more palatable for audiences, as to sort of give it a through line, because there's a lot going on here, and I'm not sure that all of the side stories ever come together, all of them the way that they're supposed to, but they're all very interesting in their own ways. And I think because there's so many of them, none of them feel like overwhelming. Like, you're not always like, oh, okay, we're back to this story. No, it's always like, oh yeah, what's been happening with the Katie Holmes character? Oh yeah, what's been going on here? And I think they actually made sort of what could have been a tricky and sticky plot tree into something pretty cohesive and incredibly watchable. The thing with this character, what's the name again of the Michael Douglas character? Grady Tripp. I'm not sure if I ever said it. But Professor Grady Tripp. Yeah. What I like about him is he is a likable but flawed guy. He's not, he's obviously got a lot going on, and he's a mess for sure, but he's not a mean guy. He's not, trying to play people off each other necessarily. Sometimes he needs to sort of, do just that. But even in the way he does it and his mannerisms and all that, you can tell a genuinely good guy that you want to succeed. He just is sort of aimless right now. And you can see why his wife left him. Yeah, he's obviously, devoted to his career and his book and all of this, and you could see that maybe he wasn't devoting the amount of time he needed to her. Can't fault her either for leaving, but at the same time, he's getting the Chancellor pregnant and everything, so there's that. But again, this is a genuinely, seemingly good guy that has come upon, a really, really, downward spiral in his life that is trying to keep everything together. But the love that he has for his students, specifically Tobey Maguire, in that character, and wanting him to succeed and trying to give him the tools to better himself. It really is, it doesn't get talked about in, great college professor roles, but I think this is up there. And I think Douglas gives it a great performance. I'm not sure, we talked about Robin Williams a little bit with the marketing. I think Robin Williams would have had a different take on this character that maybe, and I love Robin Williams, but maybe would not have lent itself to the role as well as Michael Douglas does. So I have to give him some credit for that. I'm glad I found this one. And that's sort of why I'm doing this kind of project of, once a week, let's take a look back at a movie that I had never seen before, but always kind of heard about this one. And I love the cast. Robert Downey Jr., it's so interesting to see him in this era, because this is obviously long before he got really sober with the Marvel stuff. I talked about that. But I was a huge Ally McBeal fan. So for me, his sort of comeback was on Ally McBeal. And that really is what got him on the straight path, because he was on for an entire season of that show. But things like this and things like Bowfinger a year before, I think made him realize that, I can do this. If I have a project to focus on, I can do this. I can do this. And he's great here as well. He's not in the movie all that much. I mean, I think he's sixth build or something. Yeah, fifth or sixth build. So he's definitely more of a side character. But with his limited role, he makes an impact as well. So look, this is, like I said, I'm not sure if it's the best of the ones I've seen so far. I think I've tackled 7 or 8 of these older movies. Blood Simple's probably the best from an objective point of view, but I would say this is the one that I would for sure watch again, and maybe again after that. I really found this quite charming. I leave Wonder Boys with an A minus. Now, this is not available on any of your free streamers, but if you have the Hoopla app, which is through your local library, as long as you have a library card, a library account, you can have access to their material. And this is available for free as a download that you can watch on your computer or on your phone through Hoopla. So, all right, thank you for watching Downey Reviews It, and we'll see you next time. Bye.